Howdy folks, Congo here, and today we're going to be talking about the Lexington. This is the Tier 8 American aircraft carrier. This is a follow-up in my simple guide to CVs of the American carriers. So today we're going to be talking about the equipment, the upgrades, what signals I take, commander skills, and then I'll be taking it into a random battle and playing a game for you. So, with that out of the way, let's begin with the equipment. So, upgrade-wise, for the Lexington, the first upgrade I would take is actually the torpedo bomber upgrade. This changes the size of the wave from 2 in the attacking flight to 3 in the attacking flight. So you have 3 torpedoes per wave. This gives you a higher chance of setting a flood on the target and just a higher chance of damage because of the more torpedoes you drop. As well, of course, you're upgrading your planes from Tier 7 to Tier 8, so you get more health, more speed, faster recovery, and then 2 additional planes on the deck. Next, I would upgrade the dive bombers. These are the main source of your damage. You want to use them to come and set permafires after an opponent has repaired the flood you set with your torpedo bombers, so upgrading those next is good. That extra speed and health from Tier 7 to Tier 8 is going to help you survive, especially as a Tier 8 carrier. You're going to face a lot of Tier 10s, so having that extra health is going to be nice. It also gives you an extra bomb in the plane in the attacking wave and 2 more spaces on the deck. Then I would finally probably upgrade to the Tier 8 rocket planes, the HVARs. These are just a straight upgrade from the previous Tier 7 aircraft. More health, more speed, couple more rockets in the payload, more damage, more planes on deck, and then it also changes the flight size from 2 and 8 to 3 and 9. And then next I would take the B-Hull. And then finally, if you want to, as a completionist, you can research the Tiny Tims. I would not use the Tiny Tims personally. I feel they're just way too inconsistent as opposed to the HVARs. Especially after the rocket reticule changes in 097, they're very hard to hit on destroyers. Yes, if you do hit, you can do a lot more damage, but you drop so few rockets that you have a higher chance of missing or landing only 1. Whereas with the HVARs, you're more consistent. You're more to get more consistent hits and therefore more consistent damage overall, and it just is more consistent. Now, you could take the Tiny Tims and only use them against larger ships like battleships and cruisers, and the higher Pen and higher Alpha will do more damage against those larger ships that it's harder to miss with Tiny Tims, but for general use, I would just stick to the HVARs. As for upgrades, I'm running Air Groups Modification 1 and Aircraft Engines Modification 1. These are pretty standard. Then I'm running Aerial Torpedo Modification 1. Just the extra torp speed helps, especially with how slow your torpedo bombers are on the American carriers at only 35 knots base. And they have a very, very low arming distance, so that extra arming distance is... It's a bit noticeable, but it's not terrible. Then for the 4th slot, I've got Dive Bomber HP. Once again, dive bombers, your main bread and butter of the American carriers. So having the... have a little bit more HP can give them to survive a little bit longer, and the more bombs you land, the more damage you'll do, and the more fires you can set. And then finally, for me, Concealment Expert. This is just to knock down the Lexington's massive 13.5 concealment down to 13.5. I think base it's like 15 something. So this gives me a little bit of safety. I can move my carrier closer to the front lines. If you don't want to take concealment, or you don't feel like you need concealment, you can always take Flight Control Modification 1. This gives you a little bit of extra restoration time and a couple more deck spaces. I just prefer the more concealment. I like being closer to the front lines. It reduces my plane turnaround time, and concealment makes it easier to do that. And then for commander skills. Now, I have 2 different commander builds. The commander build I'm using on my Lexington is not the normal commander build. So the commander build I have on my Lexington right now, this is a fighter setup. So this is more for ranked, especially with the Bronze League rank in Tier 8 now. So this is more of a setup for that. So I've got air supremacy, improved engines, aircraft armor, survivability expert, and then I have enhanced reactions, search and destroy, and then finally I have swift fish. This is just to bump up, again, the torpedo speed from its super painful 35 knots to, with the torpedo module, 39 knots, which makes it much harder for some of the destroyers to outrun your torpedoes. So this is what I run for ranked, like a ranked fighter heavy setup. The only real difference between this setup and what I would probably run for like a normal build is pretty similar to what we have on the Ranger. So if I pop over the Ranger real quick, probably something like this with the dive bomber instead of enhanced reactions. So you'd go something like air supremacy, improved engines, armor, dive bomber, health, and then you could come back and take swift fish, or if you didn't take improved engines, you took swift fish first, you take the other one. These two can be taken at any point. So whether you take this one first or this one first, it doesn't matter. Same with these two, like you're gonna take these both, so whether you take aircraft armor first or survivability expert is up to you. I prefer to take aircraft armor because it gives my planes more effective health because of how priority sector currently works, and that it's a percentage of your max health damage. This means they take less damage with the low hit pool, meaning they have more effective health, where this just means that they have more HP overall. But they take more damage from things like people who use priority sector. So I would take that, and then for the 4-point skill, I'd take bomber flight control rather than enhanced reactions, and then probably site stabilization as my last skill. And then that would kind of be the build is something similar to this with these 5 points is like your core. You take these on both, and then instead of taking search and destroy enhanced reactions, I'd probably take bomber flight control and site stabilization instead. Alright, and then for signals, I have camouflage. I have the perma camo, so I'm just going to use that. And then for signals, healing flag. This is to give your torpedo bombers a little bit more healing when you use the heal consumable. Just means you might get another one in the water, especially in heavy AA. And then India Delta, Juliet Whiskey, Victor Lima. Fire flood flags. You have HE dive bombers and torpedoes, so you want to set floods, then fires. So having these flags just help, and then you can take whatever economic and special you want. For combat, you could also take November Foxtrot for the faster reload of your engine cooling and fighters, or the flooding recovery, because flooding is actually really painful on a carrier because you're really slow and it actually lasts a long time, or AA. For the combat flags, it doesn't really matter what else you take. I personally would take these 4, and then whatever else is just, you know, butter on top. Alright, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and head into a random battle. See what the matchmaker throws us. It's probably going to be all tier 10s, because that's pretty normal for tier 8 carriers. Usually you get up tiered into tier 8 a lot, like most of the time. Sometimes you'll get top tier, where you're the tier 8 and there's tier 6s and tier 7s. But that's pretty rare. More often than not, it's either you're up tiered into tier 9 and 10, or it's an all tier 8 game. With arms race going on, though, 1v1 tier 8s, I don't think we'll see full tier 8 games. It's pretty unlikely, and it's more likely that we'll get up tiered into tier 10 like this. So let's see. What do they have? They've got a Holland. That's very scary. Shima, I'm not too worried about. Yugamo, I'm not too worried about. Aki, not really. Mogami's not. Montgomery's got very weak AA. Baltimore's kind of scary. NC's kind of scary. Georgia and Montana, super scary. And then the enemy carrier. So in terms of AA threats, they've got quite a lot. We can kind of pick on like the Mogami if she gets isolated, or the Turpits, or the Yugamo or the Aki. But the Holland's going to be a real right pain in the neck. And then the American battleships are, we could strike them. But it would cost us, and we would not get a secondary strike, so I don't want to strike them first if I can help it. We do have a Thunder on our team, though, so we'll probably wait until later into the game, until maybe the Thunders burned them or damaged their AA, and then maybe we might go strike them. But our main battleship priority is probably going to be the Turpits, the Lepanto, ships like that. Lepanto has good short-range AA, but it's short range. So we can get a strike in and maybe a second strike if we don't loiter too long. Oh, our Friesland made the wrong turn. That's unfortunate. How much damage to do? I think their Lexington is probably using H-bars as well, judging by the damage the Friesland took. I'm not sure. I'm air spotted, so it's most certainly a destroyer. Which one? Let me see. It's the Hollands. That's unfortunate. Yeah, and we're gonna lose all of these planes, and I doubt we'll even get an attack off. Yeah, just way too much AA, and CCAP is basically untouchable. We cannot fight that Holland. I mean, you saw she completely destroyed the squadron before I could even turn around and do anything. So this is going to be a pretty rough game for us. In terms of available targets, there's not a lot. There's basically nothing at the moment. Holland is in C, so we can't touch her. Tirpitz is kind of pushing up, and she doesn't have that much support. Oh, okay, here we go. Yugamo just got spotted. Oh, and she turned for us, too. That was nice of her. And we found the Akatsuki as well. I'm just going to recall those planes. Yeah, there's a lot of battleships over there. There's all three of their destroyers. This is rough for us. I'm gonna try and torp the Yugamo, because I think she's gonna go beach herself against that island to dodge the Holland torps. So I might be able to just slide in and torp her while she's beached against the island. Oh, nice. Kagero killed the Holland. That's really good. That opens up Seaside to strike the Montana and the Baltimore, although I don't want to strike them necessarily right now. At the moment. Where's that Yugamo? Let's see if we can get him. He's actually not as beached as I thought he was. I'm going to drop it there. Force him to take that line. And he did actually eat a torp, so I'm going to try to come in and catch him as he's sticking his nose out here before he can reverse. Because you can see he's trying to reverse. I should have dropped them more backwards, but RNG was not very kind to me, but should go down. Hopefully the Cleveland can kill her. If the Cleveland can't, I'll come in with dive bombers and kill her. There's the Mogami actually right there as well, and I don't know if this Yugamo has smoke. This Yugamo may have torpedo reload booster. She hasn't smoked yet at all, so I'm beginning to think she might have torpedo reload booster. In which case she doesn't have a smoke screen, because if she had a smoke screen, she would have used it by now for sure. And the fact that she hasn't leads me to believe that she doesn't actually have it. Yeah, and see the Akatsuki is actually smoking the Yugamo. Not though, actually. Interesting. And RNG said no again. Oh, we're right back. That's unfortunate. Oh, we hit him. We hit the Yugamo again. But that's too much AA. I mean, it's not strong AA, but because they're all grouped together like that, it's really hard for me to actually do anything. And Thunder just burned down the Montana, so that opens up Seaside flank, so I'm actually going to move my hull that way. And I'm going to go toward this Georgia. Because I can see there's a Holland here, torping her. So if I can land a flood on her, force her repair, I might be able to come in and set a fire. And the Holland might be able to set a perma flood as well. The George is quite fast, quite maneuverable. But we'll see. One on the nose? Ah, there we go. One on the nose. seems the enemy has mostly lemminged to A, which is actually quite good for us, because it means they're boxed in. They can't really go anywhere. So you know what? Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm actually gonna move my hull a bit aggressive behind the island there. That'll just reduce my plane turnaround time even more than what it already is. And if I can find that Yugumo, I would like to kill him, because I know he's super low. I bet you he's still sitting behind this island right here. He's not. There he is. Ah, not enough. Yeah, they just have way too much AA there. It's gonna be hard to get any strikes in on there. But we know where the Yugumo is, so now we've kind of alerted where the Yugumo is for our Gladi. There we go. Baltimore's down. That opens up the entire seaside flank for us. Georgia's about to go down. Mogami's low. I'll probably send these torps out towards either the Lepanto? Probably the Lepanto. Because it looks like she's about to eat torps as well. And she did, in fact, just eat a torp from, I believe that was the Holland. So I'm going to see if I can get a torp here. Because she's probably just repaired that flood set by the Holland. I'm going to recall those planes because they were fighter tagged. Oh, and there we go. That's a permaflood on the Lepanto. She just repaired the flood from the Holland's torps. So we knew that. We went in and we managed to get lucky and set a flood on her again. So now she's permaflooding. She has massively reduced movement because of the flood, and she's slowly moving in the Holland. And I believe that flood was actually on the stern side of the ship. So that means those torps that the Holland launched might get another flood on her. And I'm going to come in and hit her with dive bombers now. The acquisition's actually pretty low too. So's the Yugumo. Oh, the Yugumo might eat a torp. Ah! That's funny. That's a Colonel Sire. Oh well. That's okay. Lepanto should go down. She's got a permaflood. She's got a permafire. Her damage control is going to be up soon, but it's not up yet. So, oh, it just came up. She just repaired. There we go. Thunder killed her. Beautiful.
Our team has taken the lead.
So now they've got an Akazuki on low health. Tirpitz, NC, and Mogami. Oh, and that must be the activates smoking up right there. So we're gonna have to go the long way around and strike the battleships in the back there. They're currently being farmed by our destroyers, and I believe I'm the one actually spotting them. So I don't have fighters at the moment because I just used them on the Friesland. But what I'll do is I will drop fighters in a second before I go strike the one of these battleships, whichever one eats torps. And it looks like the NC just ate a torp. NC ate 2 torps actually, and so did the Tirpitz. So I'm going to go after the Tirpitz, I think. North Carolina has American damage control that lasts a minute. Or it lasts 30 seconds, and I don't want to loiter any longer than I have. But the Tirpitz does not. Her damage control does not last as long, so I'm actually going to go for her instead. No floods, unfortunately, but 2 hits, and I forced her to mostly move forward, so now she's going to be forced to move forward into our team. And we actually just, I believe, spotted the Akazuki. Yep, there we go. Plane spotted the Akazuki. They're permanently spotting the Tirpitz and NC right now, until the Kagero and Shima in the rear can push around and spot them, which it looks like they're about to. I'm gonna actually go bomb the Tirpitz, I believe. I'll drop a fighter here to keep them spotted. Spot the NC as well. That's a fire. Oh, she even found my Lexington. Oof, and that NC is in a real pickle. She's spotted, and she's in a torp sandwich between a Shima and a Holland. She might die from those, we'll see. Oh, they ranged out. Drop these from behind, because I want them out, and it doesn't matter. But so we'll go after the Lexington instead. Maybe stick some torps into her. I don't have any fighters to keep the Lexington spotted, unfortunately. I used them all on this squadron. So I will have to... I won't be able to keep her spotted. Let's take fighters outside, or rocket planes, because I do have some fighters in the squadron. And then I got a flood on the Lexington, which I don't think she has repair for. Oh, and Shima killed her. And that's game. So a bit of a rough game for us that game. Being bottom tier, we couldn't get as many strikes in as we wanted to. We did 80k damage, and I think we had about 60k spotting damage. And we were third on the team. Oh dear. Didn't mute my phone. How unprofessional of me. Sorry about that. So, in any case, as a bottom tier, as I was saying, as a bottom tier carrier, we weren't able to do a lot in the early game. It was more in the mid to late game. We were able to strike some of the lower health targets or strike some of the isolated targets. We were able to work with the Holland, notice the ships that she was torping, and punish them for using their repair on the single flood from the destroyer. The Lepanto, we did 12k from the floodings. The Georgia, we did a little bit of flooding. Oh, we didn't actually get a flood on her. Who else did we flood? I think it was the Tirpitz. No, the Tirpitz we set on fire. Yeah, it was mostly the Lepanto. But we were still noticing that those ships had used their repair, and were trying to capitalize on the fact that their repair was on cooldown. So that is the Lexington. In the next video, I will be talking about the Midway in the final episode of this kind of tech tree. We'll be talking about the Midway. And then preceding that, we'll be talking about some of the premium carriers. For the Americans, it's the Enterprise, Saipan, and Roosevelt. So if you like what I'm doing, stick around, and I'll see you next time.